Welcome to Successful Philanthropy. I'm your host, Jean Shafiroff. This show is designed to highlight the work of leaders here in the United States and then beyond. Today with us, a very interesting woman. Her name, Pat Deshong, and Pat is the Executive Director of the Southampton Animal Shelter. Today, Pat is going to discuss the shelter. We'll discuss animal rights. We'll discuss how to care for your pet, especially in summer months. And we will continue our dialogue with all of the animal lovers about the need to adopt and to take good care of our animals, because right now we have an excess of homeless animals in the United States. Let's all welcome Pat Deshong.
Thank you, Jean.
Pat, it's great to have you on Successful Philanthropy. And Pat, I understand you are new at the Southampton Animal Shelter. You became executive director in December of 2021. Before that, you were executive director of a shelter in Jupiter, Florida. Tell us, what was that like? And what do you see here in Southampton, which is different from down in Jupiter, Florida, as it relates to pets?
Well, thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here. Yes, I left Florida just recently, the end of November. I was running a shelter there named Furry Friends Adoption Clinic and Ranch, and had been doing that since 2014. Had the privilege of working with some great people, board of directors, volunteers in the community, built a great new facility there, and wanted to take what I've learned there and bring it to Southampton, and hopefully do some work here with the shelter.
And what are your objectives with the Southampton Animal Shelter? I personally have been involved with the shelter on its honorary board for about 8 years. I've chaired the annual gala for many, many, many years. Mm-hmm. I'd like to hear what your interests are and how you'd like to see the shelter improve, because improvement is always good.
Yeah, I think number one, I'd like to bring a lot of awareness to the great work that the Southampton Animal Shelter does. One thing that's very different from Furry Friends is this is an open admissions shelter, meaning that they don't turn animals away, and it's also a no-kill. It works very closely with the township of Southampton, which is a large area, and taking in the strays and owner surrenders and getting them properly trained and medicated. Thankfully, we have our own clinic here, so it makes that so much easier. Many animal rescues in and around the country don't have the benefit of having their own clinic. So what that does for us is we're able to take animals in, give them the proper medical care, spay and neuter them, and just get them healthy and ready to be adopted. We also have a great training team as well. One of the things that I'm seeing, I saw it in Jupiter, I see it here in Southampton. You're seeing animals coming in, being returned by owners that have some behavioral issues. And I have a theory about that, Jean. I think that people don't realize the stresses they feel and how they translate that to their animals. And let's face it, our animals don't know how to meditate. They don't know how to take a deep breath, and they don't know how to process your negative emotions, or if you're upset. I mean, let's face it, the people in this country in the last couple of years with COVID and everything else happening and the pressures have had to deal with a lot of stresses and a lot of new territory. And one thing I want to make sure people think about is how that translates to their animals, and to help them through that. Because what can happen with that is the animals wind up, nipping or biting or just being a little cranky themselves, and all that can be misinterpreted. So one thing, I want to bring that awareness to everyone.
Yes, if you have a household that is calm and relaxing, well, animals learn from their owners and they follow their owners. So if the owner is relaxed and not under too much stress or doesn't exhibit a lot of stress, well, chances are your pet is going to be the same way. And I think that's an important message. But it's so important to adopt. And I love that Southampton Animal Shelter has a very, very active adoption policy, and and that you really screen the people who come in and who are going to adopt. And can you talk a little bit about that screening process? For example, say my neighbor down the road wanted to adopt a little dog. What exactly is the process?
Well, now we do it a little differently. We ask people to go on our website first, and it's an adoption application to fill it out. Because we found that animals don't show some well. Having you just walk in the door, you don't know exactly what you're looking for. And we really don't want to take you through the halls of the shelter. Sometimes the animals, they're barking. They're really trying to get your attention, but sometimes it doesn't make them show well. But we like to get a better idea of what you're looking for, so that when you come in the door, we can take you out to one of our play yards or into our meet and greet room, and we can show you exactly the type of dog or cat that you were talking about. So.
Yes, and adopting is a very exciting process. In my home, we have 4 rescue animals, 4 dogs, and unfortunately, our little Charlie passed away recently. He was a very elderly dog, and well, the medical situation just was not good, and one day he passed, and we're very sad about that. But the dogs that we have in our house have brought us so much love, so much unconditional love. Naturally, as a pet owner, there is a big responsibility. You have to care for your pet. You have to feed your pet properly, give that pet unconditional love, and be careful about elements. And Pat, what other suggestions? And of course, veterinarian care when they need to see a vet. But
yeah.
What can you add to that, Pat?
Well, they should definitely every year have a wellness exam. Go to your veterinarian. There's so many great veterinarians wherever everybody lives, they're nearby. But I would definitely do that. Make sure that they're eating the quality food. Make sure they're properly vaccinated. Very important that they're microchipped. Sometimes an animal can get out by accident through the door, or if there's loud noises, especially during the fireworks and things like that. And we always try to emphasize people not to leave their animals out during those times, and to make sure that keep their TVs on and keep their animals distracted, and really don't let them out by that. But if they do get out, it's so much easier if they're microchipped. They can get returned quickly. And that's one of the things here at Southampton Animal Shelter. Every animal leaves with a microchip. We are, as an open admission shelter, we take in all the strays, and it makes it so much easier if an animal is microchipped, and we can contact the owner and reunite them, which is always a great thing as well.
Yes, and for someone who is a new pet owner, I think it's very important that you keep your dog on a leash when you take your dog out, yes. Because if you don't know the animal, well, the animal could just run away. And I like to keep my dogs on a leash all the time. We take them for a walk, and I feel secure, and I know if a loud noise or something happens, one of them is not going to run away. I don't think they want to run away anyway. I think they have a good life. Pat, Southampton Animal Shelter has quite a large number of animals at any one given time. Could you give us an approximate number of how many animals are in the shelter at any one given time, and then how many are adopted out every year?
Sure. Right now in the shelter, we have approximately 80 cats. We have approximately 60 dogs. And then we have an array of small animals, meaning rabbits, hamsters, gerbils. We had a hedgehog the other day. So we have an array of those little animals at the moment. In terms of adoptions, I think last year they did 1,100, 1,200, something along those lines. And I think we're on target to probably increase that. And one of the things I also wanted to mention, as you talked about adopting a rescue animal is so rewarding. It truly is. They know that they're being rescued. And I would ask people that when they do that, to give the animal a little time to adjust. You have to understand it's a new world for them. They're getting used to your house. We like to work with other shelters and help them out whenever we're needed. And which is one of the things that I'm very proud of this organization that we do. And yes, it's often saying that our adoption process is almost like buying a car. We make a point to check people's references. We check their veterinarian to make sure that the animal is properly, getting their wellness checks. And guess what? When the when the COVID hit, we were busy like everybody else. A lot of people wanted to foster animals. A lot of people wanted to adopt them. The following year, many shelters had a lot of returns, especially New York City. We had to help them out a little bit. We had very, very few because of the process that we did. We wanted to make sure that the animals didn't go to somebody just on a whim because they're having COVID. We really didn't want animals to be returned, if at all possible. So very proud of the work that this shelter does in relation to that. And also the type of animals we're getting too. We're getting pedigree dogs and cats and Siamese cats. Those kind of dogs, you don't necessarily have to go to a pet store. Call your local animal shelter. You'd be surprised.
Yes. Pat, what is on the horizon for the Southampton Animal Shelter in terms of summer events and then how can people get involved? Southampton Animal Shelter has many, many volunteers. And during the summer months, many people say, well, I've got a little extra time. I'd love to offer a little hand and come in and get involved walking some of the dogs and maybe being in the cat area and
Sure.
giving cats a little attention. Is this all possible? And how do you go about doing this?
Yes, actually, we're very happy. Last week, we lifted mask mandates here in Southampton, so we're welcoming our volunteers back and people coming in. I would tell people to visit our website, sasf.org, and there is a volunteer application. There's also our adoptable pets are there. We list all of our programs, videos about who we are and rescues. And that's probably the best way to get to know what we're all about. It's a great website with a lot of information. And we have a big event on July 16th. It's going to be at the private home of one of our board members on Gin Lane. And thank you, Jean. You're our ambassador. You've always been our spokesperson, and we're very grateful for everything that you do for us. So that's going to be a great event. It'll be a dinner, and we're going to be honoring Police Commissioner Bratton because he created an anti-cruelty program, and he was honored by the ASPCA when he was commissioner in New York City. So we like to honor those people that give back and take care of the animals, and we like to highlight that. But it's going to be a great evening, which we'll put our invitation up. If somebody wants to come, please, by all means, get in touch with us and we'll get you on our list and get you an invitation. We have great music, entertainment, and just a beautiful setting to be in the village of Southampton, and you'll get to meet our animals.
Yes, and that event is always very exciting and a very important fundraiser for the Southampton Animal Shelter. And I know that the tickets are not available yet, but if anyone wants to purchase a table, you can either contact Pat at the Southampton Animal Shelter, or you could contact me because I'm working very closely with the shelter on selling those tables. And you can contact me through LTV Studios in East Hampton. That's Jean Shafiroff. Now, Pat, getting back to the importance of animal shelters across the United States, I recently heard that there were 6,000 shelters in the United States. In the Hamptons alone, there are 2. We have the Southampton Animal Shelter, and then we have ARF of the Hamptons. And to our audience, both shelters are very important. The eastern end of Long Island is a very large space geographically, and with the large number of people and animals, well, there's always room for more work in the area of animal shelters. So, Pat, you are a great leader, and again, your long-term objectives for Southampton Animal Shelter, I'm assuming, are just to make the shelter stronger and to make it a place where people know about, a place that people come and are happy to get an animal, and so that they don't go to a pet shop or pet store, and they adopt from Southampton Animal Shelter. And Pat, we looking forward past the gala, which will be July 16th. Summer continues, and there you mentioned the volunteer opportunities, and And then what about long-term building projects? Do we have anything like that in mind for the shelter or not?
Oh, yes, we do. We would love to get land out here and build a sanctuary. The shelter here, you know, it's the town shelter, but we find that so many animals come in, they need a place to decompress. We also have some animals that may never be adopted. You know, they're, you know, maybe old and they have some issues and people, and with our clinic, we'd rather keep them nearby. So we're definitely looking to do that. Unfortunately, with what happened with COVID, the price of land and the demand right now is outrageous. So we have our eye out there, but it's a little more difficult now because we're competing with everybody else trying to come out here. Understandably so. It's such a beautiful, beautiful place to be. But that is definitely something we're on the horizon with. We're always looking to do that. And we're also looking at, I'm going to be working on an event in the fall, a farm to table event with Peconic Winery has offered to do something with us as well, which is such a beautiful time of the year to be in New York and doing an outdoor event as well.
Yes, for sure. The Hamptons in the fall. Well, it's one of the most beautiful places in the world, not only in the summer, but also in the fall and in the spring. And I'm looking forward to that event, of course. And now, Pat, we have a few minutes left, and I think you, as someone very involved in the animal world, if someone watching this show decided, well, I want to adopt a pet, I've never had a pet before, what are 5 different suggestions that you can give to that person who's getting ready to adopt a pet?
I would say look at your lifestyle, first of all. You know, cats make wonderful companions too. If you're somebody that is not as mobile and you want a little companionship, there are so many cats that are available for adoption. They're very easy to take care of, a litter box, food, and they can, you know, provide wonderful, wonderful companionship. If you are an active person, you know, there are dogs you can go jogging with or walking with. I've had people say that when they've adopted a dog, it's forced them to go out into their community and walk the dog. They've made so many more friends. And then they go to a dog park with their animal and they make more friends. So, I mean, I think look at your lifestyle. When you go to a shelter also, please don't go there with the mindset of, I want a apricot poodle, no more than 3 years old, you know, 10 pounds. Go with an open mind. Go with an open mind, because believe it or not, the animal will fixate on you. And usually I think the animal picks you. You know, your eyes will meet with an animal and and it might be a breed that you never thought or a size you never thought. But I've seen that happen more than, you know, before. So don't go in with an expectation of exactly what type of animal. Go see what everybody has and just see who resonates with you and who you bond with. And believe me, it will be the most rewarding experience. Trust me. As you know, you can tell that you could say that as well. Yes. And again, we have pedigree dogs here. You don't need to go to a pet store. You know, you really don't.
Yes, and a few other pieces of advice that I would add are, if you're struggling financially and you're having difficulty getting food on the table, well, this may not be the time to adopt a dog or a cat, because you're going to have to provide food for that animal.
Sure.
Most people are not in that situation. And I know that the Southampton Animal Shelter has a food pantry, but you want to adopt at the right time in your life. Another thing is that you want to be able to afford proper veterinarian care. And generally speaking, if you're adopting an animal, you're not going to need to take that animal to the vet too often, but you want to be able to afford that. And then finally, you want to make sure you have the time to spend, if, like Pat said earlier, if you're not too mobile and you might be homebound or you're working all the time, well, a cat might be the right choice for you. A dog would be for someone who has a little more time, because dogs need to be walked. They can't just stay home all day without being walked. So all good advice. And what about adopting a rabbit or a guinea pig? What advice do you give to people who are interested in adopting some of the animals who can make fabulous pets, but who just we don't speak too much about adopting?
Yeah, they really are. I mean, I didn't really know that much about rabbits till I came here. They're absolutely beautiful. They're so affectionate. They're not as easy to pick up as, the cats and things like that, but they provide a wonderful companionship and they have personalities too. So they're beautiful. So I would, come to a shelter like ours and you can peruse and see all the different animals we have, and we can take them out and have you sit in our meet and greet room and see who you bond with and what feels good for you. But there's so many choices. There really are. I mean, if you feel lonely, there's so many ways you can get that companionship through an animal, and it's so rewarding. And we've seen the health benefits that animals have on people. There was a program that I started back in Jupiter that I hope to bring here, Shelter to Service Dog, where some of our dogs became trained service dogs for veterans. So I'm hoping to do that here as well. I've sort of seen some transformation in our veterans, and they need us to help them. So the companionship that animals brings to human beings is just amazing, and the health benefits. And for children as well. If you have children growing up with a dog, they say that, it helps them, and it teaches them responsibility, and it even helps them with their allergies, which is interesting.
And Pat, I agree with you completely on the rewards of adopting and the companionship that an animal brings into a household. When my children were younger, I was afraid of adopting because I had a lot of responsibility. Now, when I look back, I'm very sorry that we didn't have a dog or a cat in the house, because they bring so much love. And of course, it's a responsibility, but the love far outweighs the amount of work that an animal entails. And for anyone thinking of adopting a pet like a rabbit, well, I have a very close friend who has adopted many rabbits, and she actually has a rabbit reserve. And I've been with some of her rabbits, I've held them, and they are quite extraordinary. We just don't think of a rabbit as necessarily a pet the way we think of a dog or a cat, but I have a feeling this is all going to change.
Yeah.
Pat, you've been a wonderful, wonderful guest today. We have about a minute left. Is there anything you'd like to add before we close?
Just to visit your local animal shelter and support them. I mean, of course, I'd rather say come to Southampton, but there's so many great places throughout the country, and they all need our help. So, and it's so rewarding. And I thank you for bringing out all of this and letting me talk about this important subject. Animals are just wonderful. It's my life, and I know it's a big center of your life too. And we're very grateful for everything you do for us at Southampton, Jean.
Well, thank you very much, Pat. And Pat, for our audience, one more time, the website to either volunteer or to donate.
SASF.org. SASF.org. Please check us out, Southampton Animal Shelter Foundation.
Thank you, Pat Deshong. This concludes Successful Philanthropy. Our guest today, Pat Deshong. She is the Executive Director of the Southampton Animal Shelter. I'm Jean Shafiroff, your host. I'll see you next week.